So the local elections are days away now at this point. You've got Canada going to the polls today, I believe. But with that in currently all in motion, and we'll certainly be speaking about the Canadian elections probably tomorrow, and of course on Geoscope as well. The interesting point there will be by how much. How much do the Liberal Party in Canada? How much do they win by? What do they win by? How much has all this Mark Carney, being anti-Trump, this, really Canadian nationalistic stuff, how much does that increase their vote by? And how much does that now worry, of course, the Canadian Conservatives? Do they win seats? Do they lose seats? What happens with them on that? It'll be a very interesting election, certainly, to break down the results. And of course, as we said, we're going to the polls on this May the 1st. So we will be having a look, of course, at what happened in that particular election. Now, I'm already making predictions. First and foremost of all, expect a incredibly dire turnout. I'm already seeing people that are saying, "Oh my God, if this turnout is low, it's like a death sentence for Labour." And you're like, "Well, hold on, my friends. Do you not realize like how low turnouts are for local elections? Do you realize like the dire state these local elections are in? And they're almost writing a self-fulfilling prophecy, a lot of people sort of predicting that, because they're saying, oh well, if it's not at this level, then they're done. My brother in Christ, the turnout in my own hometown for local elections has been 25% for years. Years. The national average for turnout is being going down for years for local elections, even more so in particular than the general election. So one thing we will absolutely be talking about is the dire turnout rate that happened in this general election. And I can guarantee you now, you're going to see people win by like a couple. They get 100 votes and that's it. Congratulations, you won. What was the turnout? Oh, 20%. Yeah, that's it. And you will look at the chart, you'll look at the numbers, and you'll be like, 1,000 people voted when the possible turnout was like, in the tens, or should have been in the tens, from people like registered to vote. But anyway, as we said before, of course, Reform will win seats. That is, of course, inevitable, but they're not going to win all of the seats. This isn't going to be like a massive tsunami of tidal wave of all this reform stuff, because I keep on showing you, as I keep on telling you time and time again, if reform are so popular, why are they not winning all these by-elections? Because you've had over 240 by-elections at last count. Reform have only won 14. The vast majority of current councillors that they have have not been electorally tested. They were Tory defections or independents that have joined Reform. So this is actually the first time they are getting a serious election test. So Nigel Farage is the one to potentially putting his reputation on the line. It's not Starmer, it's not any other party, it's him. And if he loses, then, well, my pretty much justification of what I've been saying for the longest time of, reform is nothing that being a paper tiger gets massively vindicated. Even if he wins, like, some important seats, like say he wins one of these mayoral elections, well, guess what? They get huge scrutiny put on them. And we'll really see how a reform government would go then, won't we? Because, oh boy, are they going to get a lot of scrutiny put on them. But anyway, I want to talk about this because Richard Tice has gone into the Independent to write about how Labour are destroying Brexit. Of course, good old, classic, Brexit's being betrayed content. God, we haven't done anything like this for a while. So we'll get back into this. And of course, next month, of course, we will be seeing those negotiations kick off, which again, looking quite promising from a lot of the stuff we've been seeing and hearing on that. Gee, it's not like a certain someone predicted that this might happen, right? Right? I mean, who could have guessed? Anyway, let's get on into this. So, this comes, of course, from the Express. This is the new plot now to destroy Brexit, and just so shows how much Labour hates Britain. Oh, typical overdramatic Trice on that one. So, I love that. He starts off with, just because the Tories failed to implement it properly does not mean it was a failure. The opportunities are endless with a reform government. Oh, no, it just wasn't that it just wasn't, quote, implemented properly, because that's what reform are going with. It's that all the stuff that they wanted to do was pushed back upon because they knew it would be a disaster, and they never went through with it. But this is what reform want to do. And hey, let's say reform do go on to win, and they do go all this stuff. Guess what? It'll just prove to be once again how much of a failure Brexit was. I mean, thanks to Donald Trump, the final nail in the Brexit coffin has pretty much already been hammered in. It's just waiting for the funeral at this moment in time. And let's say reform somehow managed to get in the next general election. Again, it's laughable, like I say. Roll on Friday, because I can't wait to see those results. Yeah, they will fail. They will fail, and it will all be because they pursue these incredibly hard Brexit promises, which we've talked about will be an absolute failure. And once again, it will just go into cement into the British people's minds just how much Brexit really was a failure. So anyway, he continues. Brexit allowed us to revive our sovereignty, regain independence, negotiate trade deals without European interference, and end the EU freedom of movement, which had effectively given any European citizen unbridled access to the UK. Now, Labour wants to throw that all away. It didn't give them unbridled access to the UK. It allowed them to come and live here. And guess what? That happened for UK citizens as well. They could go into Europe and do the exact same thing. You know, like all those, people in Spain, for example, that pretty much de facto bizarre state that almost wanted to be created by reform. Still, by the way, championing, they still want a foreign MP to represent them. I still can't believe they're on about that, still wanting to try and achieve that. That is insane that they want to try and elect an MP for like the foreign like constituents outside the UK. And I'm like, no, that's not how it should work at all. Anyway, back to this. But yeah, we'll probably maybe cover some more insane reform stuff maybe later down the line, and maybe another video. So they claim, of course, to be part of strong borders, deportations, and champions now of the working man. Yet the statistics show that without a doubt, this Labour government has allowed now the biggest influx of migrants in British history. Bear in mind, they're still pretty much, just started. They're almost at the point in a couple of months' time they'll have had their first year. Right? I still think when it comes to sort of immigration, they need to sort a lot of stuff out. Primarily fund the system, create safe routes, job solved. Now, we need migrants, we need immigration. Why? Because we do not have enough people in this country to fulfill all the jobs, and that creates a big economic problem. And the second that, again, we get this magical reform government that's going to come in and just stop migration, immigration for like 5 years, and oh yeah, we're just going to go on this massive deportation spree. How's that working out for America? How's that working out for America, where right now farmers cannot get people to come pick their crops? Gee, it's not like we experienced something very similar just a couple of years ago. They have now endangered the working class with ever rising taxes, failed farmers, let the pensioners freeze to death with winter fuel cuts. Well, no pensioner has frozen to death with winter fuel cuts because, oh boy, if a pensioner had, quote, frozen to death with winter fuel cuts, papers like The Express, the Daily Mail would be all over it. Did we see that? Not a single one. Working class, Labour have just delivered probably two of the biggest benefits to the working class. First of all, ending no-fault evictions, but then also delivering one of the single biggest increases in workers' rights in over a decade, which Richard Tice, Nigel Farage voted against. Gee, I wonder why all those unions are now coming out as like anti-reform. I can't help but wonder why that might be. Anyway, their disdain for British bleeds through now their endless false promises and delusional agenda. Oh, delusional agenda. They're actually doing stuff. They're getting stuff done, more so than we certainly had under the previous government, that's for sure. Our economy is still on its knees. Why is it still on its knees? Well, of course, Brexit, COVID, war in Ukraine, all these things are a reason why that is. Other countries are experiencing those too. That's why, all of Europe still a bit shaky at the moment, but we're also dealing with Brexit as well. On top of that, you want to look at economic activity. Why, for example, when you look outside of London, for example, why is Northern Ireland on a regional basis, why is Northern Ireland performing economically so much better compared to other regions? Can't help but wonder why that might be. I don't think it might have something to do with the fact that, oh yes, it's still in the customs union, still technically in the single market. I cannot wait if reform do actually win, what they are going to do about Northern Ireland, because oh boy, if you thought the Tories were were bad when it came to the whole Northern Ireland Good Friday situation, the reform's just going to be 10 times worse. 10 times worse. God. There's this part of me, like, even though I don't want it to happen, but there's part of me that would just be like, what would it be like if they did win in 2028, where we did have, Nigel Farage as Prime Minister? What disasters would Nigel create for the UK? Because remember, once he wins and he's in charge, he's got no one to blame but himself. This has always been the big crux of Nigel Farage, wanting to complain about stuff, but never actually being in power to, fix any of those problems. So, they have already failed the economy with the net zero madness. We need to go in that direction. If you look at our economic data, net zero, green industry businesses, the only business over the past 2 years that have experienced growth. And yet you want to kill all that. Anyway, they talk tough on migration, yet they are willing to now open the doors even further. It is not just reckless; it is dangerous. How immigration is good for our economy. Once again, their priorities could not be clearer. Always bending over backwards now for foreigners, while hardworking Britons are now left behind. How? What? How are they bending over backwards for foreigners while hardworking Britons are left behind? They've just delivered one of the biggest expansions of workers' rights. But anyway, we fought hard for Brexit so the British people could regain their sovereignty, restore national pride, and reclaim the freedoms that any independent country should have. Yeah, and it's not working out. Not working out. And now that is being threatened again by this Labour government. Only reform will be able to push, and we're able to put the British public first, control our borders, and rebuild our economy. Yeah, by hiring Liz Truss to come on board and consult about economic matters. Gee, how well will that reform government go? Right? Anyway, We will appoint a minister for deportations. Why? What's the point of having a minister for deportations? Anyway, ensuring that dangerous criminals are swiftly removed. Again, they already are, but they don't care about the statistics. Even Nigel Farage didn't mention that statistic just recently, but there you go. From our island, allowing for a free, safer Britain for generations to come. That's it. We get rid of all the immigrants and there's no more crime. When you look at the statistics, crime is only committed by like a tiny percentage of those people that they like to put the blame on. While meanwhile, the vast majority of crime is committed by Britons. Who would have guessed that over 99.99% of crime is committed by Britons? Who would have guessed? Anyway, the British people have had enough of this uni-party abuse. What? Both the Tories and Labour have now morphed into one oversized, bloated, taxpayer-sucking machine. Reform is the true alternative, committed to refining transparency to the British public. Yeah, just not in your own party. Yeah, if you are not willing to provide transparency for your own party, why are you not willing to provide such transparency, to your own party, or even when you're in government, if you ever get to there. Anyway, slashing government waste and corruption and putting our workers first. Gee, I wonder where they got that from. Oh, you're going to create a British version of Doge? Good luck running on that. Look what happened in Canada. They did that. Lesson not learnt, that's for sure. A youth mobility scheme is not a solution to their failed economy, prioritizing British jobs. Again, no, it is. A youth mobility scheme is good. And it's only temporary. But it will be good for lots of British youth because they can now go abroad, study abroad, get experiences abroad, and they can bring that back to the UK. That is good. That is good economically for the UK. And yet, nope, don't understand that. Don't understand that concept at all. But there you go. Slashing net zero and reindustrializing Britain is the only solution. Reform will deliver it. Really, reindustrializing Britain. How on earth are they going to do that? What policy are they going to do to reindustrialize Britain? Because that's something Trump also promised as well, and yet he got rid of the two Biden big policies, the Inflation Reduction Act and the CHIPS Act, that was bringing manufacturing back to the US. And now he's gutted both of those things, especially the CHIPS Act, which kind of works out quite well for us. So thanks very much for that, Trump. But, this is just typical reform nonsense. Not really talking about actual policy that's going on, blathering on, trying to blame, migrants for all the woes of this country when, again, it's not. We've had 14 years of disastrous Tory rule. Little to no actual investment in the UK, thanks to those Tories. But now we've got a Labour government. And they are, shockingly doing stuff. Not everyone likes, of course, what they're doing. That's fine. I've said that before. That's fine if you don't like them 100%. No government is ever 100% perfect. I get it. But when they do good stuff, you should go, yes, that is good. When they do bad stuff, you should also be able to turn around and go, yes, that is bad stuff too. You can hold the position of, well, I like these things they do, but I also don't like these things they do either. It is still fine to like that government or not like them. But you have to admit, when they do good things, you must, say, hey, that's actually quite good. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think down below. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.